Welcome to Best 1031 Online, where you will get expert insights into all aspects of tax-deferred 1031 exchange from some of the nation's most well-known commercial real estate professionals, as well as CPAs, accommodators, wealth managers, and others. Here's your host, 1031 Broker James.
Let me tell you something. If you're a practicing commercial real estate broker trying to keep up in today's market, you cannot do it all yourself. I couldn't do what I do without my virtual assistant from CRE Task Wizard. Their VAs are trained specifically for commercial real estate administrative work, which frees me up to focus on revenue-producing activities. If you want your time back and your sanity back, go to CRETaskWizard.com. Tell them 1031 Broker James sent you, and they'll waive your onboarding fee. CRE Task Wizard. Buy your time back. Hello, and welcome to Best 1031 Online. I am 1031 Broker James, and this is my very first episode of a new series that I'm calling Brokers Who Get It. Yes, brokers who get the power of the 1031 exchange and understand it and use it in their business. With me today is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a while. His name is Landon Dorey, and he is the founder of his brokerage, Northstar Commercial Brokerage. He's in Texas. And Landon, welcome to Best 1031 Online.
James, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm extra excited to be the first person that you're doing this with.
Right on. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with, how did you get your start in brokerage, and what was the path to Northstar?
In 2015, I took my first job while I was still in college, working for a boutique brokerage in Waco, Texas, for who I consider at the time and still consider a jack of all trades, kind of a local market expert. So he did everything from office to retail to multifamily to management to development to putting together funds and syndication. So he was really the first person to expose me to all the different ways that someone could be involved in and candidly make money in commercial real estate. So I got my start there. I got my feet wet with him. I joined up with a national brokerage once I graduated college in 2017, where I spent 3 years working primarily in the net lease space. I left there and I spent 2 years at a global firm and where we were building out the national net lease platform, which took me to taking on the same position for a regional firm called Partners, based out of Houston, Texas, with offices in 5 major metros right now, which is where I continued my net lease career, but I really built what is now the foundation of Northstar Brokerage, which we're now, I think, 15 months into Northstar Brokerage and Advisory, which is an outdoor hospitality-focused firm with a ancillary 1031 exchange service line, which I'm assuming we're going to spend some time talking about today.
Right on. Yeah. So I loved how you described that. Outdoor hospitality. That's the first I've heard of this. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically mobile home and RV parks. So I met Landon, I don't remember what year it was. You were still at Partners.
Yep.
And I was coaching you. You were a Massimo member, and that's how we got to know each other. And I remember there was this immediate connection because with me being the 1031 broker, and I was very impressed. In fact, you actually had video content up and out before I did. So I was always very impressed with your work ethic and what you did. And then, I was surprised to learn that you ended up going off and starting your own brokerage. So talk about the difference or the shift that you created, because, I remember we talked even offline a lot about, the net lease world and the trying to reach out and find those investors that needed to exchange because the net lease product is such a great exchange option, right? What changed your focus into going for those owners that have held on to these outdoor hospitality units?
It's a good question, and it's a fun story. People ask me how I got into outdoor hospitality all the time, and the answer is always it was an accident. It was not on purpose. My background is national net lease sales. I've done up until the point where I really switched over to outdoor hospitality, $250 million in net lease sales across 21 states. So very experienced doing that type of sale. And then what I started to recognize in doing that was that a lot of the investors who are purchasing those properties from me, I should say maybe the best investors, the best deals for me were 1031 exchange buyers who are exiting one asset or asset class, in many cases a management intensive asset that they've owned for many years. And then they were rolling that equity into a more stable, more passive investment with the primary focus being two things, right? It's equity preservation because they had a low basis and they had a higher than normal capital gains tax and depreciation or capture exposure. And they wanted to preserve their cash flow. And if they sold their LA multifamily at a 3 cap, that they purchased 20 years ago, I'm assuming that 90+% of that is exposed to the capital gains tax on the percentage that they would be exposed to. And then they will also lose their cash flow. So I started saying, this is interesting. And I started reaching out to brokers who weren't specialists in net lease, but were multifamily specialists, land, industrial, et cetera, saying, hey, you undoubtedly have prospective clients in your network and in your database who fit this criteria. They own an asset, they've owned it for 20 plus years, and they're 65 years of age or greater. That's it. If you've got somebody like that, I guarantee you they are thinking about retirement, they're thinking about estate planning, and they are trying to figure out what the heck to do with this investment that's depreciating further. It has more and more CapEx expenditure. They're finding themselves investing more into it, and that's not what they want to do as they approach their golden years. So I said, let's go on the pitch together, basically. Introduce me to that client. I will help you get the down leg listing disposition assignment, and then this will help me get the up leg exchange acquisition assignment. We'll both win as brokers, and then our client will get a significantly better service and net result by having two brokers who are uniquely focused on their piece of that pie. And did a lot of exchanges that way. I worked with a lot of brokers. It was a great collaboration effort. And then I came across what we consider the outdoor hospitality space, which to me is RV parks and campgrounds, marinas, mobile home parks, and then boat and RV storage. When I started reaching out to brokers in that space, a couple things I noticed. One, there wasn't very many of them. Two, the one...
Oh, you don't have a lot of marinas in Texas.
No, you only have about 400 in Texas. So there's not a lot to really go after unless you're looking at it on a national.
Really? I didn't think there's 400 marinas in Texas?
Well, you've got the Texas coast, the Gulf of America, but you've also got, Texas has one of the largest populations of fresh water. We have a lot of lakes. Now, we're not like the Great Lakes states, but we have a lot of lakes with marinas.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Learn something new every day. So we recognize that, one, there wasn't a lot of brokers. Two, the brokers were not super collaborative to this concept. Or three, I wasn't incredibly impressed with the brokers in general. So I hired on a couple guys and I said, hey, go start calling, go do some research, go start calling owners who have these types of properties and fit this specific criteria and give them this pitch and let's just see what happens. Well, sure enough, we had a couple really strong hits pretty early on that gave us what's now the business plan for our entire company, which is it's equity preservation and tax mitigation and cash flow preservation for owners who are aging out and then want to preserve that equity, and rolling over into a net lease deal is a good option for them. That has then springboarded into what Northstar Brokerage and Advisory now is, which is a full service outdoor hospitality brokerage and advisory firm, where the 1031 component was the catalyst to get into that space is now just really an ancillary service of a much larger offering that we provide to those types of owners and investors.
Right. Yeah. Can't tell you how proud I am of you, Landon. This is, you did it exactly the way that we talked about back in the day. And it really surprises me that more brokers don't do this. And which is the inspiration behind doing this episode, is more than 60% of exchanges fail. every year. And I've come to realize, there's a litany of reasons of why they fail. But if you really go down to the beginning of the end, it's the lack of education. I mean, that's the common thread. Lack of education leads to lack of planning, if not no planning, and therefore failed exchange. So the 1031 exchange, it's a real estate transaction. It's triggered by a real estate transaction. Do people always exchange into real estate? Well, yes, in some form. May not be a fee simple. It might be a fractional. But the point is they're exchanging into real estate. And the lack of education is really on the shoulders of the agents and the brokers. Agents and brokers should know the basics of a 1031 exchange. And if they're an investment broker, they should be talking to that owner in a fashion that you just described and say, look, you've owned this for a long time. It's now weighing on you for whatever reason. You're aging out. You want to retire. You don't like working in it anymore. The termites, toilets, and tenant conversation, taxes, and all those other things. So you want to put that equity that you've built into good use and not give a third of it or more back to Uncle Sam through capital gains tax. So, I've even got a content on the channel about turning two transactions into one. And that's basically what you're doing. Hence, brokers who get it. So, again, really proud of you that what you've built. I think that it's a very sustainable brokerage practice, especially if you've got 400 plus just in Texas alone. I'm guessing that you're calling RV and mobile home parks outside of Texas.
Yeah, I mean, the primary focus of our first year in business has just been to establish our market share in Texas, and we've done that. By volume, we are by volume in both volume and headcount, we are the largest brokerage in Texas that specializes in this particular niche. And we've proven the model to ourselves, and now the vision is, hey, how do we provide this same level of service that our clients seem to really appreciate and enjoy and get value from? How do we take this nationally? And the unique thing about our space is that like a Starbucks in Texas is not too dissimilar from a Starbucks in Washington, is not too dissimilar from one in Florida, right?
Right.
Outdoor hospitality is very different because just marinas alone, you have freshwater, you have saltwater, you have different types of docks that cater to different types of boats, you have different types of campgrounds, you have different types of ancillary revenues, right? In the campground space and RV and mobile home, you have different weather conditions, different geography, and some parks are only open 6 months out of the year. So how do you underwrite that versus an all year-round park? So there's so many more complexities to this now that we're learning to take on, but I'm really proud of our team. I'm really proud of everybody who makes Northstar what it is today, because we're taking all those challenges head on, and the ultimate goal is to provide the best possible service and the best end result that we can to our clients, whether that's through sustainable and profitable operations for the short term because they're not immediately trying to sell, or they've got a disposition on the horizon and they need to do everything that they can to maximize the value between today and their sale date so that they can get the most amount of money that they can when they sell on a predictable timeline with a very qualified buyer.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of touched on this, but just to kind of highlight real quick, you talked about the recognizing that when you were selling that lease, that a lot of your buyers were exchange. Kind of talk a little bit more about that recognizing that, wow, this is, because the great thing about an exchange is that they're on a timeline, and a lot of times they're all cash deals. Not always, but probably my guess would be 75 to 80% of the time they're in all cash, especially if they've owned it for 20 years or more. So touch on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I think it's really important to focus on that because what you said earlier is very true, is that not enough brokers are utilizing this tool for themselves or for their clients. And I feel like that's got to be for one of a couple different reasons. Either they're just completely ignorant to the benefits of the 1031 exchange, which find me a commercial broker who says that they don't understand the 1031 exchange. There's not that many. But then show me the amount of brokers who actually understand it, and the number is very few. But how many people are actually providing this as a service to their clients, to their benefit, the number is very low. So what I was recognizing is that even in the small percentage of brokers who were helping their clients navigate a 1031 exchange, in most cases, those brokers were specialists in the underlying down leg property type, say LA multifamily, and they're not experts in absolute triple net deals, right? So they are now giving acquisition advice to somebody who also doesn't understand the property that they're buying, and they're being advised by someone who also doesn't understand that. So it's the blind leading the blind. And what I was witnessing was that a lot of these purchasers were not making the best investment decisions. We can both look at net lease properties that are listed on the market, and with our experience, we can look through pretty quickly, and what to the outside world might look like, oh yeah, these are all the same deals. It's a real estate coupon, it's a net lease deal, right? It's not that complicated. We can look at and say, well, that's a credit risk. Well, that lease rate is way too high. Well, this is an unsustainable business model. This is a dying market. Whatever the case is, there's more nuance to it that makes advisory in that decision more important. And I was witnessing a lot of people just giving bad advice, or they were not giving their clients the right advice to help them make the right decision. So what you do and the service that you provide, and how we've both been able to build a business and help so many clients, is the recognition that people really do need a sound and knowledgeable advisor, not somebody who can just quickly Google search what the rules of the 1031 exchange are, regurgitate most of that back to their client, and their client say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But really, they're not a strategic advisor. They're just someone who's looking to get 2 transactions for the price of 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's also part of the reason why for years people referred to the net lease asset as a coupon clipper.
Right.
Which drives me crazy. So just as a footnote, if you are somebody that calls net lease a coupon clipper, I'll use your word, ignorant.
Yeah, red flag.
Once upon a time, I could understand why they were called that, but that industry has changed and grown and evolved over even the last 10 years, let alone the last 15, 20 years. So perfect. Love it, man. I am so glad I got to catch up with you. And again, I am so proud of what you're up to. We've been able to, hang out together a couple of times with the Massimo events. And so I'm glad you're in my sphere, and I look forward to talking to you again soon, and keep up the good work. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'd say likewise, it's been a joy to watch your journey as well. I owe a lot of the success that we've been able to have as an individual and a company to the work that I did with you through Massimo. So I appreciate that. And I'd say when it comes to 1031 exchange experts across the country, it's not a very long list, but whatever that list size is, you're at the top of it. So keep doing the good work, keep putting out good, valuable content, because this is the type of stuff that helps people make good decisions with their real estate.
Love you, man. Appreciate it. All right. For those of you watching, thanks for tuning in to Best 1031 Online. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Brokers Who Get It, because Landon is definitely at the top of that list of brokers who get it. Be sure to like, subscribe, make comments, and we'll see you next time on Best 1031 Online.